So, Clint, how are you and your family, mate? How is everyone?
Yeah, everyone's well, mate. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, no worries. So, before we get stuck into your rugby story, mate, where was home for you and who lived with you as a kid?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very small, isolated region in Western Queensland. It might sound like BS, but my address growing up was Dalby-Dilla, Mungalala, Queensland 44667. So as a kid that could barely spell his name, it was a challenge. The town, so Dalby-Dilla was the cattle station that I grew up on, and Mungalala was the nearest town, so that's where I went to primary school.
Right, and how was school, and was there any siblings out, mate?
Yeah, I'm three of four kids. So there's an older brother and an older sister who are 9 and 8 years older respectively, and then I have a little brother who's autistic, who's a couple of years younger than me. But growing up out there, mate, it's got its challenges, but there's just as many positives as there are negatives. Yeah.
So did that create competitiveness in the house then, and has sport always been around?
I'm still trying to outdo my older brother, mate. I don't know if that ever goes away. When you get that sort of age gap, I think it's natural for big brother to want to stay big brother and little brother to try and get the top of the mountain. But I grew up in a good family, mate, but definitely a competitive household.
Good stuff. So where did sport come into your life? When, how, and what sport?
Yeah, it's probably a good segue, mate. Out in the bush, it's rugby league number one. Yeah. And then, a distant number two was cricket, tennis, any other sports that Australia was competitive at. Excuse me. My earliest memories, and, I've said this on a couple other shows, but, it is hand on heart, the truth. My earliest memories of my older brother and growing up, getting woken up in the middle of the night to watch the kangaroo tours.
Right.
And I think when you're, under the age of 10, it's funny how things kind of stick and mean more to you. So I'm sure that it wasn't rugby league that probably grabbed me initially, but the fact that I was allowed to stay up late, or that I was up so late, as a kid that age. And I remember my older brother kind of nudging me and going, "Hey, get up, we'll go watch this." All right. Well, I had no idea what I was watching, but it sticks with you, And by the time the 1990 kangaroo tour rolled around, mate, it was larger than life. Right. I'm happy to talk about that second test as long as.
Well, to be honest, mate, I was only a year old, so I can get away with it, mate. Yeah. Sorry.
You're fine, mate. You're fine.
Yeah. So how was you as a kid, and what's the school system like in Australia?
Yeah, well, Mungalala's claim to fame in 2016, it was apparently the poorest town in Australia. So, growing up there, you didn't have a lot of luxuries, on the farm. If you wanted hot water, you cut wood. It's that simple. If mum wanted to roast a chicken on Friday, you cut wood. So it was all pretty basic. But I think the community really looks after each other where I grew up. We never, we had full bellies. We had roof over our head, and we had a loving family, which I think a lot of people get distracted by anything else. I think that's all you need to really have success at a young age. And we had the things that bound us as a community. And rugby league in Western Queensland, like I said, mate, it is everything.
Yeah.
Growing up on the farm, there was a really tough period where the drought really kind of affected the community. And my old man, I was lucky to have an old man who just had incredible work ethic, and he went away to work, wherever he could. He was a diesel fitter by trade. So he worked with, with water drilling companies, and, as a mechanic here and there, and really turned his hand to anything to make sure the family farm was, the mortgage was taken care of. But the only time he'd come home during the week was State of Origin Wednesdays, so it gives you an idea of the priorities when, bugger the birthdays, but if it's State of Origin, we're home, we watch it together.
No, it's definitely the case where, unfortunately, over here, the origin sort of Lancashire, Yorkshire things never really stuck around, and the topic doesn't come up, but I think there's something there to build on over here. Don't get me wrong, productions are very different, aren't they? Which you'll know yourself, and we might touch on later. But so hopefully it comes around. So any box ticking with sport for you growing up? Did you play any representative stuff or out like that?
Mate, I tried my hand. You know, the dream was my hero growing up was Greg Alexander, which, you know, kind of goes against the Queensland pride thing. But I just, you know, growing up in that era in the early 90s, everyone was either Broncos, Raiders, or Panthers.
Yeah.
And I was a diehard, still am a diehard Panthers fan. And so, you know, I had visions of, you know, playing halfback for Australia and leading the Panthers. And you know, when I was about 12, 13, 14 and went off to boarding school, you know, I thought, oh, this is my window, you know, we're going to make this happen. Then I hit puberty, mate, and I'm 6'7", bloody slow and can barely catch. So you know, the halfback position kind of left me behind. But, you know, I played, you know, once I got to boarding school, mate, that changed everything because, you know, growing up, we just didn't have green grass. You know, like the greenest patch of grass in the bush is the rugby league field. And, you know, the nearest areas where kind of you could go watch a serious club game was Charleville to the west, and Roma to the east of us, about an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on which direction you went. And, you know, Arthur Beetson Oval, you know, Darren Lockyer was the big name, Willie Kahn, Wally Fulton Smith, these names, if you go back in time. You know, we grew up just idolising these guys, and you kind of see rugby league as a vessel. You know, it's an opportunity for more.
Yeah.
And you know, same thing with, you know, a guy named Danny Peacock was a really big name from Charleville. Adrian Vowes, who, you know, has done great things over here, had a really strong career and continues to be involved. And then the current guy in the Queensland setup is Kirk Capewell. He's a Charleville boy. So I'm sure there's just generations and generations of bush kids going, you know what, if I can do that like that, there's an opportunity to be more than just a roo shooter or, you know, work in a lumberyard. So.
And that's exactly what it's about, mate, isn't it? It's absolutely giving them that platform. Yeah,
getting the opportunity, mate. And you know, I was lucky with sports. It gave me a chance to go to boarding school and play everything. You know, tennis, golf, like whatever they had going, mate. I signed up.
Have a go at. Yeah, good man. So how different was boarding school then from your normal? Yeah,
massively. Oh, geez, mate, I hesitate to tell the story of my first day. It might get us in a bit of trouble, but I'll tell it and let people figure out, you know, what what the gaps are.
Yeah.
So, you know, Mungalala State School, grade 1 through grade 7, I think the most kids that school ever had was about 12, you know, to give you an idea of the size of it.
Yeah.
You know, 2-teacher school, you know, one teacher took kids from grade 5, 6 and 7. The other teacher took kids grade 1 through, you know, 4. Shows how good the education was, right? And then I went to boarding school where, you know, mate, in my class had, I think, 200 kids in it. And, and you know, like just the idea of going into a situation where now you got to wear this uniform, learn how to tie a tie, you know, shine your boots. Like the world changes so quick and you know, you have to adapt. And first day of school, I could not find the classroom that I was meant to be at. It was just too big. I couldn't find it. And so I gave up on that and I went to the second classroom. I remember sitting out the front, you know, kind of shaking like a bloody leaf, nervous. And, you know, the kids rolled up and we all rolled into this class. And I started, you know, not at the start of the year. I was one of those midterm kids, which is always, you know,
tricky.
Just the lad doesn't quite fit. Everyone's already buddied up. But grew up in a very sheltered house. You know, family doesn't drink, so I'm drinking for 6, you know, these days. But rocked into the classroom, mate, and, you know, all new kids, put your name on a plaque and sit at the front of the desk. Well, I'd never even heard the word, mate, but my name's Clint. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you write Clint in capital letters and you don't leave a big gap between L and I, you get yourself in big trouble.
I can imagine.
So here's this kid that's never even heard the word. I've written it in big bold letters, put it on the front of this, and the teacher's gone at me straight away. So I've missed the first class. Second class, I got kicked out. I was straight to the principal's office. And I wish I could say I was big and brave, but I was crying like an absolute in hysteria, thinking I haven't even attended a class yet and I'm going to get out of school. Yeah. And she come charging in and the principal's got this look on his face and they call me in and they said, "What's your name?" And I said, "It's Clint." I'm crying. And he looks at it, has a big chuckle, and goes, "Go on, son, you'll be right. You'll be right." But it gave me some street cred, because all the kids thought, "Oh yeah, this guy, he's cool." I was like, yeah. No.
Honestly, I am.
Exactly. A load of BS. But so that's a story I haven't told in a while. Yeah.
So what are your options when you're leaving school, mate? Is school something you enjoyed in the end?
I loved the social element of school. I struggled greatly in school. It seems to be a bit of a buzzword at the moment. Everyone seems to have it, but I was undiagnosed with dyslexia until I was 34.
Okay. Yeah.
And couldn't read and retain. I was pretty good with writing, besides the spelling, but I could structure sentences, and if someone told me something, it'd stick. But they hand you the book, mate, to read, and I just could not read and retain it. So it's just
you're a doer, basically, aren't you?
Yeah, and you get kind of, I do believe there's an element of self-fulfilling prophecy with people. If you think you're dumb at a young age, you believe it, and it kind of it can be very hard to shake. And if you think you're the best rugby league player as a kid, you believe it, and it can compound as well.
Yeah.
And I just thought, mate, I literally have to do something in sports, or I'm just not going to be anybody. Back to the farm, which isn't the end of the world, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I always wanted more, wanted different, I should say, not even more. Just wanted different. And so,
So you always seen sport as the get out, and Clint, yeah?
That was the vessel, mate. That was the vessel. Right. And continued to be so through majority of my adult life, mate. Business almost came on the back of it,
Okay. Yeah. So is sport something, regardless of whether it was rugby, the golf, the tennis, like you said, most lads say it's a nice icebreaker into fresh groups.
Yeah.
So it's straight away with somebody, there's a connection, isn't there? Whether they dislike the sport you're discussing or whether they bang into it, it's initiated, that first word, correct? So is that helped you at the back end of school and possibly thereafter?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. By the time I was, I think 22, maybe 23, I purchased an indoor sports centre.
Right.
So, indoor cricket, netball, volleyball, bar upstairs, concessions downstairs. And, I always found, like you said, if there's a common interest, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you can talk cricket, mate, there's very few places in the world you can't go these days and have a conversation with someone, regardless of education, religion, race.
Yeah.
And indoor cricket is a very interesting subculture. It reminds me a little bit of rugby league over here, where it's kind of, it's not the big dog, but let me tell you, the following is passionate and they travel. And they self-fund, and the juniors, it's all volunteer-driven, and then it flows into the outdoor game from a standpoint of talent pools. But learned some tough lessons at that age in business, mate. I tell you.
I can imagine it, and also I don't want to speak for you, but I can imagine, because I'd still say you're a young pup in your 20s in the business world. Yeah. Not many people like that, do they? Or I can imagine not many people like the fact you're willing to make a go of something at that age.
Well, I think I say it often, mate, and there is probably an element of truth. I'm unemployable, so I had to get my own business because no one had employed me. So, I'm 40. There's an element of new kid on the block, and a lack of experience in rugby league over here, mate. But as far as mileage in business, I've owned my own businesses overseas since I was 19.
So it's not a scare point for you at all.
Not worried at all, mate.
Yeah. And that's only can help, can't it? Because you're willing to dip your toe in the water, and what comes.
Yeah. Mate. And it's a pretty, business is tough. Like anything in life, it's tough. But mate, if you focus on getting the simple things right, you surround yourself with the right people. Be humble, ask for help when you need it. And just work your knackers off. Things will happen. Yeah.
So the early signs you've seen from the sports centre, so how did that come about, and what was the reception to you approaching people to buy that at that age? And did it take much to get a buy-in from the community in there?
Are you talking about the indoor sports centre?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So again, you know, when you're in boarding school, you look for every excuse to get out of a night and do something. And I had a brother-in-law, well, I guess not technically mine, but, you know, an extended family member who would swing by and pick me up on a Wednesday night and take me there, and I'd watch it. I didn't even get to play. I'd just sit there and watch it and, you know, eat the red frogs and drink Coke and head back to school an hour and a half later. And just, it was a bit of an escape. And I said to a mate one day, I'm going to own that one day. And you know, fast forward about 5 years, and I bought it. And I remember us being so proud and, you know, thinking I've got this business stuff all figured out. Mate, within 6 months, I was living in the storeroom, absolutely broken.
Right.
You know, like sold me truck to get the power turned back on, and, you know, just thought, what am I doing? I've embarrassed the family, I've embarrassed myself, you know, just, you know, feeling the pressures of the world and hiding it from everyone, you know, just thinking no one knows how broke I am here and what's going on. And it's funny, like after I sold that truck and got the power turned back on, I was like, again, you know, I don't cry all that often, but it sounds like I do. I was in tears. And I was just thinking, this time next month when that bill comes due again, I don't have it, and I don't have anything to sell. You know, I don't know what to do. And the way that the world works, mate, like fast forward 2 weeks, someone approached me about buying it. It was, you know, a lot more than what I paid for it. And you know, I was able to roll that into other opportunities and take what I learned about business in that sort of pressure cooker environment. And I think I learned 10 years about business in about 2, mate.
Yeah, no, it's people need to know that it's just not plain sailing, Clint, don't they? As well as which will, and as much as we'll touch on it later about how York seem to be coming across really well now, you've also had to do that, suffer and sacrifice, haven't you, to manage to get on the back of that.
Mate, that's the education. You know, that's the education. That's learning to
put numbers up. Yeah, you won't get it out of a book either, mate. No.
It's a balance of all things, mate.
Yeah. So how did you kick on after selling that then? Where did you? Yeah,
well, and there was a bloke called Nick Marks, big fella, and he played cricket at the centre. And I use it a lot, this story and the quote that he gave me at that young age. He was probably a guy my age now, but he looked like an old man, as I do. And he approached me for
21?
Yeah, it's the filters, mate, filters. He approached me after I sold the centre out of nowhere and said, let's get a beer. And I went and had a beer with him. And I never really knew what he did professionally, you know, but was always kind of impressed by the bloke in and around as a member of the club. And he worked for Channel 10. And he was pretty high up with Channel 10 and actually, you know, had been living down south in Sydney, I think. And it come up to Toowoomba because his wife was having some health issues and they wanted to be closer to her family. And he offered me a job in commercial sales, which, you know, working for Channel 10 seemed like a really big deal at the time, you know, like it's a major TV network and you kind of think, oh, geez, mate, I've never sold anything in my life. I don't really think I know what I'm going to, you know, if I'm going to succeed at this. And he honestly just told me to shut up and show up. And you know, I asked him, well, why me? And he said, well, you never know who's watching. I know you were doing it tough and I know what you did to, you know, keep that place because people aren't stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And he gave me an opportunity and I learned not just, you know, it was kind of a missing piece in the business puzzle because I'd never had any sort of corporate training, you know, it all been kind of figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
When you have some kind of structure that's successful, you know, especially when you compare it now to what we're trying to do here with the, you know, your corporate partners and you know, the elements of sales and marketing and how to kind of structure a team off the field and on in many ways. It was good to have that time in a system where you kind of go, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. Or you look at something and go, oh, that's a bit of a restriction there.
Right.
And you pick your pieces and put it together business-wise.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as there will have been a lot of positives that you could have took from that, there'll be stuff you thought probably wouldn't work for you as well, wouldn't there?
Red tape.
Yeah,
you know, red tape.
I know.
Just
the handbooks, but talking.
Not being able to get approval, not being able to do what you know needs to be done.
Right.
They're the frustrations, but only frustrating to those that want to do it.
Yeah. So what's the next step for the Clint then after Channel 10? And where does that lead you to?
Channel 10, mate. Yeah, I was a decent cricketer, mate. Yeah. In all honesty, I was probably a B grade hacker that just hit a couple, at the right time to get opportunities. But I actually came over to the UK and played a bit of cricket.
Right. Okay.
In my 20s over here. Yeah. As that kind of that international club player stuff, and with sports you do have a small window. You can't wait until you're 40 to come over and do that. So stepped away from what was going on there at Channel 10. Took a few clients, if I was honest, that I was able to to look after long distance.
Mm-hmm.
And was able to to launch the business that I have now. Really, it's called MyOL Group, which MYOL just stands for Make Your Own Luck. It's not nothing.
I like it. Yeah, I like it, mate. No, well, and as much as you say it's luck, it's hard work as well. Perseverance, it's sticking with it, isn't it?
Mate, it's preparation meeting opportunity, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah, of course it is. So for people that won't know, mate, that might not follow that cricket. So when they bring players in like you and people like you, they make you go out and do a bit of coaching, community work, mentoring. Yeah, so just talk us through what that spell was like.
Again, I was never going to be someone that played for Australia. So when you come over as the international player, it probably is similar in many ways to what I see, maybe in the League One or amateur club stuff if they go for someone. But, you work the bar, you coach the kids. I've spent many a day on the roller as well that first season. Just doing whatever you need to do to bring value. But at the end of the day, when you're the international player, it's on you to perform on the field. And
I can imagine so.
Yeah, and it's the same pressure. It's the same pressures that guys have over here in rugby league. You come over, it's an opportunity. You're probably getting a pat on the back more than you deserve. But at the same time, when it doesn't go your way, you probably get more criticism than you deserve as well. So,
and are you building networks all the time, mate? When you're out there coaching, rolling, pulling pints, and
everything, mate. And if you, mate, I don't know quite how to say it without saying the same thing over and over. If you just work hard, people want to be around you.
Well, it's underestimated, though, isn't it?
It is, mate.
You say it as much as you want. Yeah.
There's no magic pill to success. Like there's definitely ways that you can shorten the timeline. And I think some of that comes with experience and being humbled many times. But just outwork them. Outwork them at training, outwork them in the bar, outwork them with conversation. Everyone brings joy to a room, mate. Some when they walk into it, others when they leave it. Figure out how you want to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a good way of putting it. I've never heard that, but it's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So, it is. It's right, isn't it? So, where did being the international player take you? And what are the facilities like in cricket and that compared to what you're in now?
It's funny, mate. So I played for North London Cricket Club, and the facilities there are pretty humble, but let me also say bloody brilliant. Like a traditional old ground, a few different fields.
Real.
Very real, mate. Very real. The only thing that's changed in the bar is the size of the TV. Like it's bloody brilliant. And I was at the Challenge Cup final on Saturday.
Yeah.
And as soon as the full-time whistle went, I was out the door, jumped in an Uber, and I was actually heading back to the hotel. And I could show you if you need evidence. I said, bugger, I'm going to swing by the cricket club. Went in there and there's the same old boys doing the same old thing, and it was great. Had a pint, had a catch up, watched the end of the B grade game. A couple of kids that I coached, and they captains.
It's the beauty of sport, isn't it? Yeah,
mate, just generationally, it keeps coming. Yeah.
So how do you take them the values from where you've come from? You've come and you're picking little bits up from everybody, like you say, good and bad, and you use what you want to use and treat people how you want to treat them. But are the two sports very alike in the mannerisms? Are the values the same? And
I think culturally, rugby league is a tight-knit community, which is both a strength and a weakness. I think I think there are people here to help you. You know, I've found all the other owners, chairmen, GM, coaches, you know, going to these grounds and kind of, you know, like I said, being the new kid on the block, and, you know, I'm an outsider. I don't know how many international owners there are, but I can't imagine there's too many. No. And I found them to be nothing but encouraging, you know, nothing but, you know, even downstairs, you know, talking with Mark from Sheffield before I jumped on the phone with you, like, you know, we need a couple of extra seats in hospitality with sponsors, and everyone's keen on a Thursday night to get over. And they just can't do enough for you, you know, like they figure it out. And obviously we try and do the exact same in response.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't know what I was stepping into politically in the game and what, you know, what kind of the culture is between clubs. But, you know, there's a lot of rivalries there that run deep, but I think there's a lot of respect too.
Yeah.
Everyone looks out for each other. It's what I've experienced, you know, 4 months in, but it's been really encouraging. No,
that's good, mate, because I've grew up playing rugby league, both courts, to be honest, league and union, but I think the higher you go, for a better use of a word, I'd imagine it to be very bitchy.
You know, mate, but there's some things I don't comment on, but like anything, the higher you go, the more political it gets, right?
Of course it does, yeah, but at least for the start of your foundations that you're clearly building it, you're all helping each other out, because the game needs that. It's all well and good.
Yeah, I agree, mate, 100%.
Backstabbing, but we want our clubs to be around. I'm from Widnes. I'm in the same league as yourselves.
Yeah.
We all need to exist in 50, 100 years, don't we? And it won't work if we're not going to help each other.
And you know, I was talking. I'm sure you've got questions about, you know, future of the game and club and all that stuff coming up. But I think that there has to be a mindset of, you know, for lack of a better term, greater good.
Yeah.
You know, because the game's been stagnant. You know, and there's a lot of exciting stories in the game. You know, if you look at where the game's growing at the moment, or at least, I'm talking from a York perspective here. I don't know the numbers at the next level to kind of talk about it as an expert, but 50% of the population is women. The women's game here, you know, we held a game in the stadium where it was just the ladies team, the women's team. We got 500, 600 people who paid to come see that.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's really encouraging, you know, like really encouraging, and seeing the mirror image of what I was as a young fella, you know, running out to try and, you know, grab Alfie Langer by the jersey and that sort of stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the same thing here with little girls. You know what I mean? Like, these girls just look at them the same way I looked at Alfie and Wally and whoever else was around at the time.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to see, that there's a future in the women's game, and that, you know, there's a real growth to be had there, even if nothing else changes. Like, there's low-lying fruit for the game to grow.
No, definitely. You see it on the socials, and obviously I only see the games that are on telly, but it's like little girls now with the women's names on the back of the tops. That's a big start, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did York come about and grab your attention then, mate?
Yeah, well, I ended up in, you know, after cricket, married an American girl, moved over to the States. You know, one of my more successful business ventures, I'd say. I was only married for about 18 months and had to start again, but ended up in the States, and kind of had to reinvent myself, because it was very, you know, it's almost, you know, my identity was always that of a cricketer. You know, you walk in the bar, you get introduced. Oh, this is Clint. He plays cricket. You know, oh, great, mate. You know, it kicks off the conversation. Well, in the US, you know, they didn't know if cricket was croquet or polo, or, you know, that, like, some of the comments, you know, make you blush, and it really affected me, because that was my identity, and all of a sudden my identity was a joke. You know,
all to them non-existent, without being rude. Yeah.
And you know, I really struggled with kind of figuring out what my identity was, and I'm sure that didn't help my marriage any either. But you know, post sports is a totally different podcast for another day. I've got a podcast on athletes post sports too. But I took the last of what money I had, and you know, kind of, in honesty, mate, the same skills that I learned as a kid. Just, I was good at fixing things. You know, like I could see what needed to be done, whether it was in business, and you know, probably a little brave in saying this. I can kind of even on a footy field, like you can kind of go, all right, you know, there's not a lot wrong here, just a couple of pieces here and there, and I think there's room for improvement. You know, proof will be in the pudding on that, but you got to back yourself at some point.
It's obviously not an overnight thing, either. Sorry to interrupt you, is it?
No, and I got the reputation as the turnaround in business. So when a business was on its knees and broken, you know, I was the guy that went in and either invested what I had to invest and turned it around and you know, kept it, sold it, you know, took it back to the partners that had it prior. Sometimes it was court appointed, you know, business is in bankruptcy and they need someone to go in and kind of clean it up. So you go into those situations, which are tough, you know. One of the toughest things you'll ever do is fire someone. You know,
it's funny because that is going to be later on one of the questions about them tough conversations, because you know the human as well most of the time, I imagine.
Yeah, and you wear it. You know, I've got the perfect angle here because you can't see my big gut, but
oh man.
You know, but you know, the world wears on you, and you know, letting people go, although you know it has to be done because it is the greater good thing, you know, and it goes back to that conversation of if you don't make the tough decisions, the tough decisions get made for you, and often the repercussions of those there's no coming back from, you know. So you know, if you have to let a couple of people go, and sometimes they don't deserve it, mate, but the budget's the budget, you know. Like it's either everyone goes broke or some go broke, and it's you know, that was the tough part of the job for the last 12 years, where I go into businesses and clean house and you know, consolidate and then you launch again. You know, that's after every ploughing season there's a, you know, seeding season, but then it does bloom because you get into a position where you can hire people, you know, give opportunities, you know, get behind people and remove obstacles for them to achieve, and that's really rewarding. But sadly, it's most often after a bit of a tough situation. But rolled those in. So to get to York, mate, long story short, I was a minor investor in Major League Rugby over in Colorado, with a team there, and you know, getting the reputation of now having some investment in sports and you know, being the turnaround guy, kind of going and fix things. I was approached, and I'll leave it out, you know, who approached me and that sort of stuff.
That's fine.
There is legal documents involved with NDAs and all that sort of stuff, but you know, there was a club that was struggling financially, and it probably wasn't seen that way by the public. And I went in there, and I really wanted, you know, because rugby league is the love of my life, and I really wanted to get involved, but not at the sacrifice of financial security, and you know, I just couldn't see how it was going to get back quick enough to be able to do it. But having met some people in the English, you know, rugby league community, fast forward an extra year, and I was approached by York to see if I'd be interested in this. So here I am.
And what a beautiful part of the world as well.
Stunning, mate.
Stunning. And no, it is. That is the word. It is stunning. So, how do you go in and how do you, like, not impose isn't the right word, but eventually you will have to. You will have to flex and make them tough decisions. But so I've had Jamie on, Jamie Ellis. I've had Jamie on.
It's good.
And he's someone that is really enjoying himself there. You're seeing James seems to have the right thing with the lads. And if I'm honest, he's a great to see on socials because your interaction good, isn't it? So you've got your in the shed stuff, you've got your women's stuff, the facilities look top notch now, and everything's looking, and you've just touched on it, without sacrificing financial stability of the club. You're doing the Super League journey right in everyone else's eyes. It comes across. I know other fans that look at you and think that's how a club should be heading and run. So,
you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know. So I hope when I talk about what our plan is here and how we're going to go about it, that it doesn't come across as critical on other approaches, you know. Like I tell you, if I wasn't if I wasn't wearing this badge, how good was it watching Lee and Fev?
It was. What a game.
I hope Mark pulls out the checkbook again and spends some more. So, it's a great thing to watch, and from a standpoint of where we're at, mate. I'm a Queenslander. Like, we've never had the better team, and we still win. So of course it's in me to think, when the big stage comes, that we're a chance. But I also don't want to say, oh, we're gonna roll Featherley. Like, geez, it'll be some doing. It'll take some doing. Yeah. It'll take some doing. But I think in sports you've also got to be full of belief, genuine belief that your players can do it, and I hope my players genuinely believe they can, because they should. I think the characters in our squad at the moment, Jamie included, I don't think it's always about how much you can give. I think it's about how much you're willing to give.
Yeah.
And you look at the Jordan Thompsons, Chris Clarksons. My goodness, mate. I'm not
been there and done it as well. Yeah, been there.
Who would I replace? That you can't.
No.
You can't. Like,
and without being rude, not at this level, you can't.
No, mate.
No, you'd have to unearth.
Say. Yeah, that's all I have to say. If you go into the trenches,
you're right.
Denny Kerman, mate. Like, what Denny does to, we've got James Ford, and it's been said 1,000 times, and I'll say it once because I'm sure he'll want to negotiate a contract at some point. But he's great. Like a top-notch coach. We've got Brett Delaney, or Frog, as you need to call him, who's bringing that winning mentality. Like, he knows what winning looks like. He knows what it looks like in the dressing room, knows what it looks like on the bus after a win and a loss. Yeah. And knows what's, what needs to be bridged. And it's really exciting to kind of see what is here and what is building, whether it peaks this year, next year, or the year after, time will tell. But I like our pieces, mate. Yeah.
No, because it's, unless you unearth a kid that's on the verge or has been missed for some reason or other, on paper, you're certainly a top 4 side, aren't you? And you can't. Them names you've said, they've been done it on the big occasions. So it's again, difficult.
If I say that we're a top 4 side and we finish 5th, I'm sure it'll get played over and over and again as motivation for other teams. But we've all got the same job at the club. It's to get better at our job every day. Whether you're a coach, whether you're an administrator, whether you're a player, whether you're a physio, like, our job is all the same. It's to get better at your job every day. Yeah. And you just see where that takes you incrementally.
So you touched on a few names, right? What's the process of going out and enticing that calibre of person? Because whether they're a player or a coach, a physio, selling programs, it's about the person more than the player helps, the better coach helps. But if the person fits what your mould is, which I'd like to know what your mould would be, how do you entice them to come?
Mate, I really hope that they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and whether that's, on the field or off the field, like my theory is that you have to have everything done right to succeed in professional sports, right? And by that I mean, we could have every ounce squeezed out of our on-field squad, but if we're not feeding the beast, feeding the engine for growth with our commercial situation, if we're not doing our marketing right, our social media, if we're not connecting with the community right, like, all these things have to move in big word, synchronicity.
Yeah, no, they do.
Have to be in sync.
Yeah.
They have to be in sync. They'll get close. And they all have to get the equal amount of attention from me to make sure that we're not dropping one ball, that everything's starting to snowball together. Because, one of the things that I speak about with James, and he's genuinely bought in and given a lot of leadership to me also, and guidance being new over here, is we don't want to build a team to win the championship. We want to build a team that can compete in Super League. And I know that sounds like the same thing, but it's very different when you look at a 3 or 4 year run at who you're recruiting now.
Yeah.
Again, there's no criticism coming from me. I've achieved nothing, nothing, zero. Right. So I won't come here and say we're doing this right, doing that wrong. I don't know yet, but
that's just your ideology at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think if you invest in youth and you surround them with guys who do it right. And, you know, we go back to those leaders that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
If you can have that apprenticeship model where you've got next man up, you know, get into the system, you know, hey, we're taking a 3-year gamble on you, not a 1-year gamble, you know.
Yeah.
And you're going to have 1 out of 3 that just don't work, mate. That's just the way the world
life.
Is, whether it's injury or just a bad fit or whatever, you know, insert reason here.
Yeah.
But if we invest in young guys, and, you know, maybe we are paying overs for young guys on potential, but the potential that we're after is their character. Yeah. Because, you know, the old saying of talent, you know, all talent does is set the floor. It doesn't set the ceiling. If you have the right character and they're eager to improve and they're coachable and they're good lads or good girls, you know, like that's equal value to me in a sense of what we're trying to do in the community to grow as a club. OQP, I preach it every day, only quality people. If you're a dickhead, you don't belong.
I'm about that, mate. Yeah, I like that. But so when you're looking at bringing someone in, is there a few meetings? Do you give yourself a chance? Sorry,
it's signing season, mate. I'm not going to give you a damn thing.
No, but do you give yourself a chance to say,
absolutely,
he's a bit of me, I'm not sure.
Have you been to York?
Yes.
Pretty attractive, isn't it?
It certainly is, mate.
Yeah. Our checks still seem to cash, mate. So our facilities look pretty good. I like where our coach is. I like the core of our side.
Yeah.
I think incrementally we just, you know, maybe look to spend our budget in different ways. You know, I'm not increasing the budget next year, but the way we spend it, you know, instead of trying to get the best team we possibly can in 2023, I think we get the key elements that we need to win moving forward. So, you know, whether that's a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, or what have you, you know, I think you can go about it and spend 20 grand on 10 different players, or you can spend 40 on 5 and, you know, hope that you can develop some young guys through. So we'll see, mate. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's the goal at the moment, is to take a 3-year run at it.
No, good stuff. So but you just touched on it yourself. It's silly season, obviously, because the window is now open. And are you getting emails and calls every other minute now? Because we've both just said there's no doubt you're an attractive destination place to be, and you look after people by the sound, and there is a big buy-in. That's how it comes across.
Well, I certainly hope that's, you know, the narrative that goes out, mate. You know, we want to be a good place where people are happy to come and play. You know, it's all well and good having a nice city and a nice facility, but you also want to win. You know, it's also important that your career has a trajectory where it can continue to grow and to achieve. And, you know, we take that responsibility very seriously. We've got to look after them, mate. Got to get them.
Yeah. No, it's again, as much as we keep saying it, you've got to look after the principals first, and then if people don't fit that, mate, without being rude, they don't belong, do they? So it's
preaching. Yeah.
These difficult chats. So you've gone into a place where you've been asked to come in and take over and take your art to the next level, which long term you're very much planning to do. So how are them chats coming in? So is it difficult to get people to put a buy-in? Is it difficult to try and establish a culture that you want, or was it semi there anyway?
Oh, mate, the culture of the club was really good when I took it over. You know, I think like a lot of clubs, you know, COVID obviously created some hiccups. You know, last year, just the constant scrambling, very difficult to get a culture. You know, when you combine people being unavailable with games being cancelled and training obstacles, like all that stuff. Last year was such a disjointed challenge for York and for many clubs. So I kind of looked past that one. You know, 2020 didn't happen. If you look at the trend that the club was on in 2019, as far as on field, you know, I think that you're seeing a similar pattern now. You know, where, you know, we want to be a home playoff team. You know, if you're a home playoff team, in my opinion, with what we're spending and you know the tools that we have in our toolbox, I think that's a really good result. You know, so do we want to win it all? Absolutely, but you know, you also look at what you're spending, where you're at, and where you are in your development run. There's no doubt in my mind that we need to bridge the gap with our amateur clubs here in York. You know, right. I have a tendency to take things very personal, which is both a strength and a weakness. Yeah. It's good in a competitive way sometimes. But, we've got 3 great amateur clubs here, and we're not getting the best out of it. And I don't think that's their fault. I think there's a gap there that needs to be bridged by both parties. Yeah. I think it's up to me to take that first step to bridge it. So, you know, trying to get behind and contribute and support, you know, our 3 amateur clubs to where players can see a direct line to all their opportunities being fulfilled at York, as opposed to having to go elsewhere. That's a big one for me. That
big time, because we're a similar club to yourselves at Witness, and every kid's dream when I was growing up, you want to play for your hometown club, don't you? And if the avenue's there, mate, of course it is, and if you can get your brand in there, a little bit of theirs at your gaff, that things like send a first team player or 2 down and give trophies out at the end of the year. But when you're a kid, you're buzzing at you. And
yeah, exactly, mate. And you know, you look at we've got 4 really quality youngsters in our squad at the moment. There's another one who's trialling with us, who, you know, I think will probably get an opportunity in the future. But you know, we've got a short turnaround this week, like every other club. You know, Thursday and then Sunday. Yeah. And I think, like a lot of clubs, you know, we're going to play a stronger team one day than the next. So these young guys, every time they've got an opportunity, mate, they've exceeded expectation. Yeah. And you know, it's great to have these guys, you know, as a direct line of, they've come from here, they trained for a year, you know, they're playing, and not only they're playing, but like they're in future plans. They're not just making up numbers as a backup. Yeah. Like they are a part of the club's future in a very real sense. I think that piece needs to be, I think we need to constantly have that pipeline coming in, and just, you know, we're going to have to figure out how to get that situation, to get other clubs out of here. They feel very comfortable coming into York at the moment. I hate that.
Yeah. And what an attitude, though. No one should come and pinch your talent if you can help it, should they?
Again, mate, my marriage didn't work, but I take it as if someone's coming in the front door for a cuddle, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Yeah.
No, that's fine. So what's your opinion on the dual reg system? Is it something you like? Is it?
I just don't know enough about it yet, mate.
Right. That's fair enough.
About it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I think from an amateur club standpoint, you know, one of the big concerns with a club like York is if the players sign that they don't get games. And with a dual reg system, you know, the ability for them to go play for their amateur club is a positive if they're not playing week in, week out. But at the same time, I think it's a responsibility of clubs like York, you know, specifically, to find a way to have these guys playing. You know, I hesitate to use the word academy because you know the price tag attached to that just isn't realistic for us for a while. Yeah. But you know, you're looking at reserve grade, looking at ways to where they can wear that York City, you know, Knights badge. Even if they're not playing for the first team, that they're wearing that on a weekend and representing. And if they're not, getting games at the local club to keep that community strong and solid. But I don't have the ins and outs of it all figured out yet, mate, to make a strong comment.
No, that's fine. And the comment you made is also part of that bridge you've got to build, isn't it? It's getting that branding in there and letting their lads know that avenue is open. So the way you speak to me now, I can only imagine that's how you are with the fans. If people ask you, you're pretty straight up in that. Not a lot of clubs get this though, mate. So
yeah, well, we're, you know, I think there is, you know, graduations to a club. You know, we're a small organisation, so you know, if you're small, you know, you've got to find advantages. And I think one of our advantages is that we can be quick to adjust. You know, like if someone in our back office or on the field has an idea, and you know, they can get buy-in, whether it's from me or, you know, Neil, our GM, who's incredible. And, you know, shout out to Joe Smith, who did that in the sheds. Like, you know, these are ideas that have come from within.
Yeah.
And all we need to do is say yes, and we can do it.
Yeah.
Accessibility is one of those that I can offer at the moment. You know, you walk into the club shop, my desk is 20 feet away, you know.
Right.
Like,
so you're on the front line and know what people want to a degree.
You know.
To a degree, yeah.
To a degree. You know, if a fan wants to come in and you know, discuss the price of beer, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they come in and then parking is an issue, or if there's, you know, if there was an incident at the game, or if they have a concern about something to do with the club, they can get me.
Yeah.
And that comes with its challenges, but you pick your poison, you know. On a match day, you know, I'm sitting here looking out the field now, and there's, you know, the concourse that runs at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
You know, I look like a bloody, I'm sure I look like an idiot on a match day. I strut up and down the field like bloody
100 mile an hour.
You know, very uncomfortable individual on a match day. But I think that it's very important for now that before the match, I walk down into the general admission seats, and whoever's there, you know, half an hour before the game, I thank them for coming. Because let me tell you, I am thankful they're coming.
Yeah.
You know, it's a direct link between their support and our success. So, you know, the more I can show genuine appreciation and have direct communication, I think it also gets rid of a bit of grey area.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have all the socials, and I think that's what keeps me sane. You know,
the good chance, mate. Yeah.
You know, I don't believe the good stuff people say about us, and I don't believe the bad stuff people say about us, because I don't read any of it. I just go to work. But it allows me to kind of have a little bit of innocent eyes and go up and shake someone's hand. I don't know if they've just called me XYZ, you know, 30 seconds earlier or not. I like them either way.
Yeah.
But I think fans do respond well to that. You know, being able to walk up to you and go, you know, say whatever. And if they say
just them little personal touches. Yeah.
But at the same time, if they say something I don't like, there's access to that as well. So
if they're gonna say, if they're gonna say it, you can't not have something back. No. That's just not how the world works, is it?
Yeah. You know, we have our fans forums, like, you know, that, you know, 200 people in a room and you're sitting up and just taking questions. I quite enjoyed the first one. We've only done one, and you know, there's no doubt there's a honeymoon period with, you know, with new management coming in, to where everyone's, you know, happy, and it's easy to say what you're going to do.
Yeah,
you know, the second, third, and fourth might be a little more
challenging.
but you know, but I know that, you know, I've been called everything under the sun before, and just keep going to work.
Yeah, I just think don't underestimate how open you are, because like at our club, and all fans are disgruntled because the feedback's not there from board members, or our social channels aren't as proactive and interactive as yours. So as much as what you don't know won't hurt you sort of thing, I think you've definitely got that bridge with the fans where our club would love that. So it's great on you. So them difficult chats when they come along, mate, so if you have to, or you've not had to do it yet, I don't think, but releasing a player, releasing a member of staff, how does that sort of thing work? And is it? Yeah, there'll be a sour taste, won't there, if you get what I'm saying? But
exactly, mate. And you know, you at some point, I'm going to have to take away someone's plan. You know, and it's never enjoyable to do that, and I've done it hundreds of times, and it sucks. Yeah. But I find that the best route is to be quick, direct, and don't make it personal.
Yeah.
And don't take what they say personal. You know, you even if it's true. You know, I have my flaws as well, but just, you know, everyone's humans, mate. Everyone's humans. This is a tough gig. You know, there's only so many spots. That's what makes it exciting. There's only so many places. Yeah. And you know, just treat everyone with dignity and honesty, and don't avoid it. You know, if you know it, and it's got to be done.
Yeah, Don't be around the bush, basically. Just be direct. Yeah.
Do it with dignity, mate. And you know, take whatever comes after that, and move forward. So
you touched on the women's team before, mate, and it's something that you're certainly excelling in. You're up there challenging with. Yeah. Don't want to sound like favouritism, but Saints seem to be the team to beat, don't they? And they've got the international players like a few of the clubs have. So
that's it. Yeah.
The women's game has certainly grown. You said it yourself since you've been here, and you're getting their big crowd still, the 600-700. So how do you see that game developing, and how's the buy-in from the women's section? And
mate, well, as lucky as I am to have James, I'm equally as lucky to have Lindsay Anfield on the other side. It's so easy to talk to people that just really give a shit.
Yeah.
You know? And let me tell you, she gives a shit. You know what she goes about, and you know, her support staff, you know, the whole unit. You know, I think the women's game has a really, when I say this, I mean in a good way, has a real chip on its shoulder, which I think is a real strength.
Yeah.
Because, geez, I've got to be careful here. I don't want to be ousted. I think that traditionally, and I actually wrote something about it and spoke to the staff about it. You know, I did a lot of reading on that British Lions tour back in the 90s. I think it was 96. And kind of some of the stories that were coming out of that, you know, some of the ways that people spoke about the women's game back then, you know, like it's not 100 years ago. You know, that's well within my lifetime, you know. And the challenges that, you know, like having to fundraise, and they couldn't get a bank account, they were, you know, basically having to strap money to themselves to be able to go on a tour to Australia. And when they came back, you know, like you were lucky to see anything on the local sports pages. And I think that narrative is still in the veins of the women's game, that it's kind of a little bit of us against the world.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a strength and a weakness, you know, because there is help, there is support. You know, the RFL, everyone wants to see the women's game grow and expand and become the best in the world. You know, there's an opportunity to do that, a real opportunity to do that over the next, you know, 20 years. But they're still carrying this chip on their shoulder about it's us against the world, which, you know, Lindsay has a little bit of that. And let me tell you, I love it. I absolutely love it. I do, because when you get in the room with her and you know how that goes with the women, you know, like when they take
pure passion.
Mate, and it's very real. You know, it's hard not to kind of get behind that and want to get horsepower into the women's game and push it further down the road. It's exciting, you know, and mate, again, I like being the underdog in everything that we do. Beating St. Helens here last week was huge.
Yeah.
You know, from that playing standpoint, you know, coming off the back of the loss to Leeds in that Challenge Cup semi, you know, heads were down, hearts were hurting. And the way that they responded and rose to the challenge. And they're going to have to do it again now because there's no more sneak attacks now. You know?
Yeah, no, like, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. You're going to have to continue to rise and get better because they're going to come back stronger and better as well. So, you know, you never play the same game twice, do you?
No, and obviously it's hard, isn't it? You have to find a way to hit that level again because the same way doesn't always work, does it? Yeah. So
I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is on the back of the win. They think they've done enough. It's just the beginning.
That's it.
All the ducks I ever got, mate, were after hundreds.
Yeah. You know? And the only other thing is you become a scout yourself for everyone else, like everyone else's cup final as well, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly, mate.
So
exactly. There's a big target there, so they've got to welcome the target and work harder.
They embrace it 100%, mate. So everything about York is looking good, isn't it? So I always say future plans are obviously Super League. We've touched on the model you're looking at doing. We've spoke about the interaction with fans. So we've just got a few silly questions for you now, mate, to round our chat up. So did you used to have any, or do you have them now, any pre-match superstitions? Barring the road runner in the concourse.
You know, I don't think it's a pre-match superstition. I think it's just become a habit, but I like to be first in.
Okay.
I like to be first in. I like to be the first on site. And I was
sets the tone, doesn't it? Yeah.
Same as a player. you know, if you can get in there early, I wanted to be the first one. You know, again, I'm talking cricket, but the mentality is the same. Like, I wanted to be the first person to step foot on the pitch, so that I felt like I was there first, and they had to get me off it. You know, just all these little tricks you play on yourself. But people start. You feel like people are walking into your space as opposed to walking into theirs. So I always tried to be first, and still do, mate. First in, last out each day. Match day is no different. Standard
set, definitely. So, who would have been the toughest player you played with or against then?
Oh, all right. I'll give you a rugby league one, yeah.
Yeah, the definitions are very different, aren't they? Everybody's definition of toughest.
So the last game of rugby league I played was a schoolboys, you know, semi-final, and it was against a big rugby league school in Toowoomba called St Mary's, and you know, Steve. No, it's actually bullshit. Steve Price was a Harristown boy. The Walker boys, you know, so. Yeah. They all came through St Mary's. They were big names at the time, and they'd just graduated, and we thought we were a pretty good shot at rolling them. And there was this, you know, we were in the game at halftime. I think we were down 4 points or something at halftime, and they're massive rugby league school, and we kind of just, you know, little bush kids running around. And I thought we were a real chance because their half got hurt, and they brought this kid out off the bench. He looked about that wide, had ears on him like this big head kid. I'm sure you guess where this goes. And he came on and just made us look like idiots, mate. He was 2 years younger than us. You know, this kid called Thurston. So that was the end of me.
Thanks, JT.
yeah. So oh jeez, yeah. You know. I was hanging onto a bench spot and knew that was too much for me. So
yeah. Well, do you know what, mate? One of the best games I've ever seen was the 2015 final because I went. Yeah. So I went on holiday with my mate and went to the grand final in Sydney, and I think you know yourself when you witness greatness, the levels are just here, aren't they? It's just a different.
And he's a great example of what, you know, we were talking about earlier, where, you know, talent sets the floor, not the ceiling.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing about that bloke that should have been a rugby league player except his desire, you know, and he channeled that desire into work ethic. You know, how he became what he is still mind-boggling to me. But just will compete until he is dead.
Sounds a bit like Rob Burrow, doesn't it? It's that sort of journey, mate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just you know, who cares what they say? What do I have to do? You know.
Let me show you.
Yeah. Special character, Rob, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, mate. Special boy. So your favourite away ground?
So far over here?
Either or, mate, whichever.
Well, let's keep it local, mate. You know, because I'm really enjoying going around to these grounds. You know, because I'd never been to York in my life until, you know, last summer when I came and looked at the club.
Yeah.
I would say, and we got the win on the day, which probably helps, but it reminded me a lot of kind of where I grew up. It just a little bit more slope. But Batley, I loved the experience, mate. I absolutely loved the experience, but we won. You know, if we went there and got our butts kicked, I'm sure I wouldn't be, you know, talking so fondly about it. Yeah. But it felt, you know, when I got there early and you know, didn't really know where to go and walked upstairs and, you know, there's the coffee pot and here's, you know, there's kind of the club characters floating around, and they just pulled me aside and had a chat and made me a coffee, and, you know, sitting down in the same chairs that, you know, felt like, you know, I could have been in the bush except it was raining. And the game itself, mate, reminded me a lot of what I grew up with, like that mid-'80s, like
toughness,
the mud, and it you know, it was less about skill and more about will, and you know, the young fullback that day, Harrison, that we have here, who's, you know, basically the apprentice to Marshy. Mate, he got what a day to be a fullback as a youngster playing I think it's his fourth, you know,
first grade game
at that level, and just ice in his veins, mate. That kid is special. He's under contract, so everyone can.
So keep it on. So are them all grounds something you really enjoy, mate? The traditional grounds.
You know, it's been so long since you know, I haven't lived in Western Queensland since I was 13, mate.
Yeah.
And so going to those old grounds gives me a real sense of connection to home. I know we're on the other side of the planet, but you know, if you go to a Mitchell Magpies game on a Saturday today, I'm sure there's going to be, you know, I say some old duck, but you know what I mean, like some lady who's probably had, you know, all her sons, all her grandkids all play for the Magpies, who'll pull you aside. And, what are you looking for, love? Let me get you a cup of tea, you know, have a chat, make sure you're comfortable. And to me, it's magic. It's really special.
Yeah.
You know, it is really special. The heart of the game is international. Yeah.
So if you were out with your coaching staff, the lads, you've had a good win, you've had a few beers, microphones in your hand, what you giving us, Clint?
You talking about
karaoke song? Yeah.
Oh, jeez, mate. See, we're not as good as the sing song as you blokes are. You know, you guys have all these.
Someone's lads, yeah, we're not very good, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's going to have to be like every tone deaf Aussie. It's got to be Johnny Cash, doesn't it? You know, and depending what we had to eat the night before, it's either Ring of Fire or it's you know, Folsom Prison's probably my go-to. Anything I can talk, I'll sing that.
You'll do it.